Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Hope you're doing well. We're continuing our deep dive into what? This radical feminist book that we have been dismantling and critiquing for quite some time now. And I want to keep doing that because I believe, inshallah, it will help some people to see some nuance and also come up with their own refutations of their ideology. Can't refute something if you strawman it or if you don't actually dig into it and you just parrot things you heard from reaction videos to blue-haired feminists, right? It's better to look at their literature, I'd argue, and argue from that way. So let us begin on that path. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Let's begin. Regardless of context, whatever else any woman at any age accomplishes is recast as meaningless if she does not also secure her own sweetly devoted Prince Charming. I do think that there are people who definitely minimize the contributions of women. That if she didn't get married, that everything else, but she created something great, that it's, they still consider her to have a wasted life. Perfect example is Taylor Swift. I don't like Taylor Swift, don't care much about her. But I did see Joey Mararino, is how you say his name, yesterday. She was drinking at the Super Bowl. He clipped that and posted on Twitter/X that she still doesn't have a baby in the womb. And he was insulting her. And she's rich, she's multi-millionaire, famous, won awards. But they found this way to use motherhood against her. So just minimizing her accomplishments. I'm not one to measure someone's musical accomplishments, but I just noticed that her being a perpetual single woman and rotating men on a roster and not getting married is used against her, regardless of her accomplishments. So I do find that to be accurate. So she doesn't have her Prince Charming yet. And her accomplishments are pushed aside by a lot of men who don't like feminists. And she's annoying, don't get me wrong. But I do see how some people use that as a weapon against women. You're always a failure if you haven't married. But a man isn't a failure. He's doing MGTOW, men going their own way, and focusing on his goals. He's awarded for being that. But if a woman doesn't marry, then she's somehow a broken failure, which I think there's nuance. There's definitely nuance. Because because there's so many infertile women now, I think people are going to have to start recognizing, they're going to have to start changing their rhetoric. And Aisha, the wife of the Prophet, peace be upon him, she had no children. And he didn't have children. He had, 9-something wives at one time? He only had a boy from Mary the Coptic, right? I think was her name, and then from Khadija. So the other wives didn't give him children. So we have to be careful with how we talk about childless women. The trouble is that it is very difficult to love freely when one gender has a great deal more structural power than the other. Okay, so loving freely, structural power. It is almost impossible to love freely when you are a straight woman who loves her freedom, who has determined that freedom is too high a price to pay for love. In a world that still makes our survival conditional on finding and keeping a man, and then shames us for making marriage an economic prospect. In a world that made our sexuality a commodity and then decided the worst insult for women was whore. Okay, so this is a very good example. Okay, so she said, woman who loves her freedom, okay, and then a price to pay for love. Okay, so notice, I'm going to break this down. The freedom she means to move about. So in Islam, women are told not to leave their houses without a male guardian. She's not allowed to free mix. Some men even think that little girls don't belong in school. You don't need college, you don't even need high school. You just have to stay home. And some even say you shouldn't even go to the mosque very much. You should just stay home and pray. So extreme, I would say that's pretty confined. You're pretty confined. So you're not as free to go as you please. However, there are ways where you can still have a social life and do something with meaning. You don't have to be drinking in a bar in Manhattan and going to a nightclub in order to be free, per se, right? Okay, and so the price to pay for love. So I have seen some Muslim men in particular, when they marry a sister, they kind of go insane in a way where it's just like, she's so restricted where it can kind of become possessive and a little scary. You know, I'm American, so when you see something like that, you're like, is this being the leader of the family, or is this a form of abuse? As you know, when I was 16, I moved in with my first love and left high school and became, I don't want to say housewife, because I didn't marry him, right? But we were like married, and he didn't really let me work. He stopped letting me work. I was not allowed to leave the house. I stayed in a room all day because we lived with his mom and stepdad and brother and his wife. And I didn't want to hang out in it was a very small home in Richmond in the hood. And I was confined, no PlayStation, no computer, no cell phone. And I was completely confined to that room 24 hours a day. And I could only go out when he came home. And he rarely wanted to go out because he worked as a mover for a moving company. And so I know what it actually feels like to be stuck inside a room for hours a day, day after day, week after week, no friends being able to visit, not being able to go to anyone else's house. I don't know why Allah put me through that, but it's not healthy. And that is a high price to pay in order to be with someone who you like. And he was older than me by a few years, so he was out of high school, so technically that relationship is illegal. If they're past 18 and I'm 16 and I met him when I'm 14, that's a little, I didn't know really what I was getting into, I guess, just because you're blinded by love goggles. So I didn't have any freedom at all. I know exactly what that feels like. Didn't know how to drive. I'm not very good at driving, but I didn't know how to drive. I mean, no contact with outside world. Just me and my fish tank, watching fishes. And our mattress was like a 2-bed, like a king size. So, and the room was small, so there's not even a lot of space to walk in there. So it's just sitting on your bed, sitting in there, and then watching some cable TV. That's it. That was my life. And then cooking. And his mom would always be like in the kitchen staring at me, like being totally rude. So the home didn't even feel safe because his mom was so combative. So isolation, extreme isolation. Now I'm a homebody hermit, but I can go bird watching. I have my children. I have Wi-Fi. I have a PlayStation. I have so many things I can cook, mini garden, like I have things now, right? And my husband's not insane. But I do know what she's talking about when you give up all your power, all your independence, all your freedom in order to be home, and how someone could just totally not care about your mental health. It's all about how they brag about how broken you are. And then when it's time for me, when I tried to leave that relationship, starting with nothing that's pretty brutal. Pretty brutal. You got nothing. Because he's not going to give you money to leave. And he didn't give me spending money. I had no money of my own. So I know exactly what I'm talking about. And I know exactly what this is. Okay? So she has a point. In a world that still makes our survival conditional on finding and keeping a man. Okay, so this here, yeah, finding a man is survival. I'd argue, yes. Your children need to survive. That's how I look at it. You want to be a housewife? You pick a man who's going to help you survive. He's your workhorse, your partner in life as you travel to your death. And you got to find a way to keep him. But no one can truly be kept. They may run away with some other woman. I feel very bad for the sisters whose husbands they marry secretly. They're out humping other women in a marriage. These women have no idea what they're up to, and then their whole world comes crashing down when they find out their husband has been, making up lies and excuses to go to a hotel to sleep with his second wife that he kept secret. That can destroy a woman, and then she doesn't want to keep her man anymore because there's so much lack of trust now, so much betrayal, no honesty. Okay, and it's you have to find, how do you keep that man, and is he worth keeping? Right? You gotta let people go sometimes. Okay, go to greener pastures. Go see what it's like on the other side of the fence. So, having a backup plan is smart if you can't keep your man. And some men, you can do everything and they're not going to appreciate it. I think we've all seen examples of that. And some men are quite deadly. That's why I like looking at true crime stuff. Where some people have mental illness, they go into drug addiction. Stuff happens, man. They get deported. They go to jail. So it's not just about you keeping them, but you have to survive. You have to bet on a horse, as they say, that is going to make it to the finish line. Okay? And so she's not wrong when she says that women will be called gold diggers for picking out a man that they can survive with. So gold diggers, I look at it as like they want excessiveness. Like women who like Andrew Tate are gold diggers. He is a former pimp. He likes whores. The people say he doesn't, but he slept with those cam girls. He was spanking cam girls. He recruited cam girls. That was a big part of it. And, the war room, teaching the OnlyFans stuff is pretty intense. But those types of women are identifiable. They want the bag and everything. But I would say that a smart woman, she wants to be a housewife to someone who can provide safety, live in a safe community, be able to pay for good health insurance, right? Provide her with proper nutrition, security. That's a man's job, is to provide. So she's not a gold digger just because she doesn't want to live in a box. There's a big difference, is my point. If she's asking for vacations every month, a Brazilian butt lift, a boob job, Botox, now we're getting into a gold digger. But for women's like, I just want you to be able to afford the rent and to be able to afford organic groceries. Like, that's not gold digging. That's called having a brain. And I don't know a good father that would want his worthy, excellent catch daughter to marry a broke bum. And her not wanting to date a broke bum with no ambition, no entrepreneurial spirit, no grit, no work ethic, no hustle, that doesn't make her automatically a gold digger. So she has a right to say here, how men will shame women for looking for financially stable partners. Yes, there's a threshold of expecting too much, though, I'd argue. But the prettiest women can get whatever they want, most of the time. So. In a world that made our sexuality a commodity, and decided worse until for women was a whore. You're a whore, I'd argue, if you share your body with every Tom, Dick, and Harry. You don't have boundaries and standards. Or rather, they're so low that you would come off as like grimy, sticky, slimy, gross, sluggish, right? Most straight men have never had to negotiate romantic relationship as equals. There is still so little in culture that teaches them to do so, and less incentive to learn. Okay, so negotiating romantic relationships as equals. Okay, so the question here, I would argue, is what does it really mean to be equal? Because the 50-50 relationship, if you notice these women online, they don't want to be paying rent while pregnant. Like, they want to be taken care of once they have children. When you're hot and young and you're making money, you got a pretty boy as your partner, and you're paying bills and you're a boss babe, it's quite different. But when you become slower, weaker with pregnancy, moody, then you're like, take care of me, and that's totally normal and natural. And then you see, like, you realize how vulnerable you are, and if that man left you, like, you would be in a serious, scary situation. And you realize you want to be taken care of, and you don't want the 50-50 relationship, and you do want a semblance of classic gender roles. Because working women, when they balance the chores and the cooking, things get really sticky. And I've been following more of those mommy blog posts. You see the landmine that is those relationships. So much easier and smooth sailing when gender roles are defined. But again, some women go to work, and some women want their careers, and some liberal men call stay-at-home wives parasites. I've seen that more now, and even some red pill guys. I screenshot those and post them on my blog if you ever want to read those. But there's quite a few. Even Pearl Davis, that ogre, has told now women they should work. So she shamed women for using a daycare, for being college educated, says women shouldn't vote, shouldn't be in the workforce, but then tells stay-at-home moms that they should get a job. So a grifter, flip-flopper like her is telling women to go to work, and then, like so many have pointed out, the stress of the woman of having to be masculine and work doesn't make her sexually too much attracted to her man, because he's not taking on that masculine protective provider role, but he becomes more of like a dusty, he feels like him sticking his hand out to his wife for money. It feels weird. It's like you lose respect for him, and then when you see an example of a man who's like, I got it, you actually get like stimulated. You get like attraction there. Like, wow. Like, your money's your money. Men are the caretakers of women, will take care of you, right? So you're not equal then. And in Islam, we know one has been made to exceed the other. As in, men have exceeded us in certain qualities, so we are inherently not equal. I quantify that and qualify it that we're going to be judged. Okay, so we have the equal opportunity to be judged. We have equal opportunities to do good deeds and to repent of sins, right? So we're equal in the competition to reform ourselves and do good deeds. Okay? But we're not equal in strength, and we're different, and being different is okay. But then others argue that being equal doesn't mean sameness. It means that the same human dignity. So there's so many conversations you can have around this topic of equality. But that's the nuance here, is my point. There is still so little in culture that teaches them to do so. The requirement that men behave towards women like gentlemen. Okay, so the requirement that men behave towards women like gentlemen. If you want someone to treat you with a gentleman manner, you can't be ratchet, you can't be ghetto, you can't be aggressive, slapping and hitting men. Okay, so what is a bitch? A bitch is a female dog. Alright? So, when a female dog is being bitchy, she's bitey, right? She's not very friendly. And it's harder to take care of that dog when it's always pissing you off. That's why they're saying, don't bite the hand that feeds you. Because if you have a dog that's supposed to, what do you want the dog for? Companionship, loyalty, protection, something to make you laugh. But if the dog is constantly pissing you off, you want to take it outside like Old Yeller. Put it down, because it's just a nuisance. So, when a woman is bitchy, and she's combative, confrontational, irritable, nasty, vindictive, cold, callous, it's really hard to get the behavior you want in a man in terms of gentleman class. That's why bitchy, catty women are usually with thugs, And a thug has to out-dominate the masculine woman. And that's why you see so much domestic violence, I think. Because those men, they're so mean, so like aggressive, that the aggressive woman is attracted to that in a way. Because she, like, okay, how do I put it? Like, there's dominatrices who like wimpy men, no doubt, right? But a very dominant woman needs someone to out-dominate her. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, okay, you make money, but you want someone richer than you. You're dominant, but you need someone more dominant than you. This is how abuse occurs. Because when you're so aggressive, you've gone past the survival mode of like, I'll defend my life, to being the aggressor now. When you are the aggressor and not just responding in self-defense, this is where the abuse comes in. I've seen it time and time again. And my mom would have mental illness, and she hits right away. And you're like, you can't expect a gentleman when you are very violent. And I had to learn this as well. If you want to hit a man, and a man hits you, you're not compatible. Because you're supposed to bring harmony and peace and comfort to each other. But if you're physically hitting each other and irritating each other, you're not compatible. Right? And men don't get intimidated by women who slap them. There's the classy slap, like a piggish man who's like, hey, I like your boobs. And you go like, shut up. That's like a classy Hollywood slap. Right? But then there's like videos where a woman's like, bam, just smacking on a guy, and he's like taking it, and eventually he can't handle it anymore and puts her in her place. And then you're like, how dare you hit a woman? And then they expect the men to get involved and risk their life in order to defend a woman who is acting wild. Like you can't hit men and be crazy and then expect the gentleman treatment, is my point. Kind attracts kind. Energy is reciprocal. If you are mellow, you'll attract that. Always a weak excuse for othering has vanished without being replaced by the requirement that men treat women like human beings. I would say if you want to be treated like a human being, what I've reflected upon is you have to avoid bad men. And the best way to avoid bad men is to avoid free mixing and mind your own business. In the workplace, you simply need to complain, but you need to keep your mouth shut more often. The more you talk to men, the more you open up yourself for confrontation, judgment, bad experiences, and erosion of boundaries. The men will become flirtatious, talk sexual. If you're too warm and feminine, sometimes they will come on to you, so you have to have a stern, cold voice. They may call you bitchy, or, like they don't like the women who are very just professional sometimes. There are men, especially in the restaurant industry, who, if you don't allow them to flirt with you, they will make your life hell. Sex appeal really sells in some industries. And sexual energy is used a lot in the workplace in order to get tasks done. So this can make some women feel dehumanized who don't want to do that. So they're falsely conforming to using their sex appeal to get men to do what they want. Or to just have men be nice to them, which I think is the opposite of what you should do. You need to create a wall. If you must work, create a wall. On a solid wall of boundaries. So there definitely are some men who don't treat women like human beings, and some women who don't treat men like human beings. So the core of the issue is be worthy of respect and give respect. You can't demand respect if you don't give respect. Are you respectable? Right? Is a good question. Both sides of this equation, the ritualized treatment of women as ethereal beings of fragility. Hold on. Ritualized treatment of women as ethereal beings of fragility. Well, we are fragile. I'm a strong woman. I've been in some dangerous situations. Excuse me. And I've mentioned this, and I really hope to put this in some women's heads who may not recognize it. your health. When your health is tested, you realize you're fragile and you need help. I like having a healthy husband he's always strong, mashallah. And when I was recovering from my C-section, physically and mentally, I'm like, I feel fragile right now. And I need my bodyguard husband. And, that was real for me. It was real. When you get a surgery, when you are ill, all humans become frail. But there's something, men have testosterone that really gives them a lot of energy. And we are strong, no doubt, us women. But when it comes to physicality, men, they're definitely stronger. It's amazing how much, like, just look at construction workers, just like out there, just like, I don't want to do that. If I have to build a shelter, it's gonna be made of sticks. How many coconuts to make you build me a hut? The more, someone pointed this out once, that the more strong we women get, the less feminine we get, and the more burnt out and tired we look, and we lose our beauty. Now, you have to have some survival strength. You can't just be a princess in a tower because your body deteriorates. That's why exercise is like, you're pushing your muscles to grow and adapt and burn fat, and cardio. Like, you can't just sit down on a mattress all day and be like, I am a butterfly floating through the sky, la 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 la, and never lift anything, because your body has to get exercise, movement, blood circulation, right? Swimming, like whatever exercise you do, you're pushing yourself, become more sports-like, and you're breaking that fragility of your body. When you become frail, you become sickly. Being dainty doesn't mean being weak. There's a balance, though. I get it. But no one can deny that we are more frail. At least now. In the future, I see a lot. I'm more effeminate men now. So who knows how that will go. And the cruel mercenary scoreboard are ways of treating the opposite sex as other than human. Love is political because the quality of so many straight women's lives still leans, unless they are lucky, on whether or not men love them, and love them well. Okay, so even if you're a lesbo, even if you're a gay guy, you still need that person to love you, right? You still want that reciprocation. Love is political because love is where we live our intimate politics. A man is entitled to demand love. A woman may only be a passive love object. I think women demand love. Or at least the love is shown by men in multiple ways, right? They come home to you. They're exclusive. A man cheating on you, I don't care what anyone says, you just can't love that person. Because he knows he's doing an action that'll make you unhealthy. And it'll make you depressed. If you love someone, you don't intentionally hurt them. Right? If you love someone, you care about their health. And hurting them is hurting their health. Love is not pain. If someone causes you pain, that means they don't love you. Right? Now, there's a difference between tough love, honesty, not always agreeing, but adultery is a grievous sin. And you just can't be doing that. It's not just like a handshake, like some red pillars say. So, to love someone well helps keep them around, You're on this planet, you chose them, treat them well. I water my plants, treat my parrots well, clean water so they can take a bath. You should treat your community well, your family members well, and especially your partner. When you love someone, you treat them well. Love is political because love is where we live our intimate politics. Men are allowed to define standards of what is desirable. I mean, hold up. They get to have standards, and we get to have standards. A job has standards. They look at your resume. This is what we want. You meet the mark, you're hired. Okay? Standards are allowed for everyone. You can't tell a man to desire something that he's not stimulated by. Same with a woman. You know, it's cruel to tell a woman, you need to have this complete scumbag. And you're like, I'm not attracted to scumbags, though. I don't want that guy. Well, you know, you can't really have standards, and you shouldn't be allowed to define standards. Okay? We should tell you what you should find desirable. It's like, I'm only on this planet once. I'm not gonna let you tell me who to love. Stop it. You know? It's different. As long as it's halal. That's my point. Halal. Not haram. Attracted and worthy of love and respect in a woman. Oh, attractive? You don't get to tell, you can't force someone to be attracted to you. And worthy of love? You can't tell someone that you are worthy of love. They will decide if you are worthy. But you can also be worthy, and if they reject it and don't appreciate it, you walk away. But you can't put that in their head. And respect, or like the most classic thing, respect is earned. Respect is earned. You need to be respectable. Men are allowed to demand that women meet these standards and punish them for non-compliance. Yeah, men are allowed to have standards and walk away from you and not give you relationships and not give you the time of day. Vice versa. Okay? Vice versa. And that means any woman, whether or not they've ever been intimate with her or indeed have ever met her, women are not allowed to hold similar expectations about men, even the expectation of basic personal safety. That's not true. That's no. Okay, so personal safety, men do not okay, so you're gonna get with a bad man who's gonna hit you. You must decide in your head, you're gonna walk away from that. What was it about you that was attracted to the dangerous man? Okay? You have to be honest with yourself. Why did you consent to that relationship? Why did you stay when he became violent? Why did you want a man who will violate your personal safety? Okay? You must analyze your psychology. You have to, as a woman. Were you confused? Was it the rap music videos? Was it the gangs around you? What is it? Why did you reject the stable nerd who's like a mini Elon Musk and go for a pathetic 50-cent guy or some other, like, a skateboarder who's on meth? Like, what was it about you that consented that relationship? Why did you give that man the time of day when he approached you? Why did you give the number? Why did you get in his car? Why did you open your legs? Okay? You can totally expect personal safety. And the way you ensure personal safety is by picking a safe man. Men totally know women can have standards. Okay? They know women have standards and they try to meet them. Oh, I gotta have money. I have to have a nice car. Women like soft pillows, so I need to have soft pillows on my bed when a woman comes over. Oh, she likes my bed to have a headboard. The men are, if they like you, they will totally conform to the standards that you want. And if you have standards and the man wants you, he's gonna meet them. If a man wants you, he'll meet your standards if they're reasonable. If you're like, you gotta make $500K a year, and he's like, what? I make 80,000, and you're like, sorry, you too broke, and it's like, next, no. But everyone's allowed to decide who they want to have a relationship with and how they want that relationship to be. And yes, compromise is needed in both situations, I'd argue. Let me know what you think. It's a very tense section. I don't agree with her on everything, obviously, and she has repeatedly made me irritated, but we're seeing her philosophy, okay? And that's important because we have to understand where they're coming from so that we can create answers for the youths, okay? Islam is taking on feminism, and feminists are taking on Islam daily. So ignoring them isn't necessarily the best war strategy, is it? So I'm putting my foot into the arena of the battle of ideas and seeing what it's all about. What part did you disagree with? What part made you think? Let me know. By the way, I'm fundraising for this book holder and this privacy wall, and it's on the community tab. If you join the blog, there's a tip button, and even joining the blog for $5 a month helps me save towards that, supports the channel. I'm not monetized on any platform. Heavily shadow banned and have a boycott on me from other Muslims. So if you could help me get those products, that would be great, because I will use them. And I wouldn't ask if it wasn't necessary, because I'm not that type of person. And you can check all my content. I don't really say like, share, subscribe, all of that. If I mention something, it's real, right? And I don't push like, take this course and do this and that on my fans. I don't have sponsorships and stuff like that. So this is a utility, functions as educational purposes, right? So if you could donate, that'd be great. And if you join the blog, I write a lot of different stuff on there, and it's a lot of educational stuff, some funny stuff. So consider becoming a member and helping there to be some uniqueness in the world. Support what you love. Support what you love. Alright, fam. Take care and let me know what you think.